Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope everyone's had a great time at this conference. I definitely have. It's been my first time in Austin, and I really enjoyed being here. It was so hard to pick which talks to go to. So, thanks to everyone who came out here. I know there's a lot of great competition. Just one more announcement. I'm here partially with Free Aid, and we're doing a charity raffle that's going to be drawn at the concert, at the Bitcoin cert that's coming up in just a little while. And the proceeds are going to benefit Bitcoin Not Bombs, Free Aid, and antiwar.com. We're raffling off silver rounds and cool hoodies that you've seen around the conference and lots of other swag. So make sure there's still time to get tickets for that. And, well, you can get tickets from Teresa. She's right behind you. Great. Okay, so let's start this talk. It was kind of hard to figure out what to talk about in just 20 minutes, you know. And I really like freedom. Who doesn't, right? We're all human beings and we want to be free. So I figured, okay, I'll talk about freedom. And I'm going to try to talk about it in 20 minutes. So I was thinking about this talk and I thought, well, what can I do? Okay, well, I'm just going to talk about the things that are Bitcoin related that I'm excited about that I think can bring freedom to the world. And then I started thinking, well, you know, who needs freedom anyway, right? Of course, we all want it, but you know, who are the people who actually need it? So I'm going to give you some examples of people who I think could be helped by these Bitcoin tools for being free. So here we go. Okay, what is freedom? It's an interesting question. Like, how many people have ever really thought about that? You know, we all want to be free, but like, what is it? I think it's a lack of limitation on your personal autonomy and your choices. And, you know, as human beings, we all want to be able to make as many choices as we can. We want to have control over our lives, and we want to be able to decide what to do. We don't like to be limited in those areas. So if you are personally free, I think that means that you're able to go wherever you want. So you're free in terms of your location. You can live wherever you want. You can walk across whatever imaginary lines, borders you want. You can choose a location that's best for you. You have freedom in how you use your time. So you get to decide what your schedule is like on a daily basis. Nobody else is telling you at this time you're going to do this and at this time you're going to do that. You choose when to eat, sleep, go to work, drink, play, whatever. And your relationships is another huge aspect of personal freedom. If you have personal freedom, you choose who you want to interact with and who you want to be in your life and who you want to associate with. So whether that's your family, your loved ones, your friends, your boss or your coworkers or the people that you're in a company with. Those are all aspects of what I think of as personal freedom. So these are some profiles of people or organizations that I think probably could use some more personal freedom. When I started thinking about this talk, I thought about when did I start really connecting the applications of Bitcoin with personal freedom, which is an idea that I've been interested in for a while, personal freedom. I found out about Bitcoin back in 2011, and it wasn't too long after that I came across this lady. Her name is Reem Razek, and she's an Egyptian woman, and she's an atheist. She came from a very religious family, and she decided to stop wearing this veil that her dad and her family wanted her to wear. And she even blogged about it. And as a result, she ended up basically incarcerated against her will in a mental hospital for, not believing in this religion and not wanting to wear the veil. And in this mental hospital, she was, physically and verbally abused and drugged against her will, and all kinds of horrible things happened to her. So she really wanted to get away from this. And so she, I guess, had some friends in the US and was trying to escape to New York. And there was some way that she was going to be able to get to New York, but she was doing a fundraiser because she needed the funds to be able to get out. She actually ended up getting out of the mental hospital by saying, I saw an angel and the angel told me to wear the veil, and they let her out. But then she got out and she was like, well, what do I do now? So she was trying to get to New York, and she needed to raise some funds. So I started looking into it, and there are 69 countries around the world that are not served by PayPal from the U.S., so you cannot send a PayPal payment to these countries if you live in the U.S. And pretty much all of them are for political reasons. You know, it's places like Afghanistan and Iran and Egypt. And, you know, she lives in Egypt, so you could not send a PayPal payment to Reem if you wanted to. Okay, so what does that leave you if you want to send her fiat? Western Union. Well, they're going to take 20% fees, and she's probably going to have to go pick it up somewhere, and who knows how she's going to get transportation to go there, or what could happen to her on the way, or whatever. So the minute I realized this, it kind of clicked for me. Get this lady some Bitcoins. That's what she needs. If there was some way for her to be able to receive them and then use those funds to get away, that could really, really help. And you know, it wouldn't be eaten away in fees, and nobody could deny her the permission as long as she had an internet connection, which she does because she's a blogger, to receive those funds. So she really crystallized for me, you know, why Bitcoin is important at bringing about greater personal freedom. And of course, you know, she's not the only example. There's a lot of other ones too. Around the same time, this was a little bit later, but around the same time, Wikileaks was going through some real trials and tribulations. In December of 2010, I want to say, which was a little bit around the same time I found out about Bitcoin. Wikileaks was, you know, getting a lot of press. They got cut off from receiving payments by 97% of the global financial network because they were blocked by Visa. Their PayPal account was locked down, shut down. They were blocked by MasterCard. They were blocked by several different banks, and of course by Amazon for their Amazon affiliate link that they had. And this amounted to, basically, it was really, really difficult if you wanted to donate to WikiLeaks and support them. You really couldn't do it, at least not by sending them fiat. And this was all done 100% extra legally. Nobody ever said WikiLeaks is illegal and we can't, you know, you can't send them money. It was all just pressure, you know, the slightest bit of pressure from U.S. government people. So this is what can happen if you have an unpopular or politically unpopular organization. I love this. At the same time as WikiLeaks was getting cut off by all these payment processors, people were looking into, well, you know, PayPal doesn't serve WikiLeaks, so who do they serve? PayPal was processing payments for a local chapter of the KKK, a homophobic organization, and, you know, several other organizations that were really very questionable sounding and frankly hate groups, but they weren't serving WikiLeaks. So yeah, they could probably use some help from Bitcoin. And they did, of course. They started accepting Bitcoin, and they were able to get funds that way. But unfortunately, Bitcoin wasn't as popular at the time, so they weren't really able to get probably a lot of the support that they could have used. This is a really sad story. Ethel Hilton. This actually happened several years ago. Like, I want to say this is over a decade ago. This happened in the 90s. But this happens all the time, and we don't really hear much about it because it's asset forfeiture, civil asset forfeiture laws. It happens all the time. So Ethel's sad story was she was a janitor, and she was a hotel housekeeper, and she had saved up some cash that she had gotten from working at those jobs. She also had some kind of an insurance settlement. So she had some money. She had about $40,000. Not a huge amount of money, but she had it. I don't know what she was going to do with it, but she can do whatever she wants with it. It was her money. And she had it all documented, too, where she got every dollar of that $40,000. Unfortunately, she decided to take it to the airport for some reason, and that's when her trouble began because there were drug dogs that sniffed at her bags and alerted on her, and it ended up that her entire life savings at that point was confiscated. And even though she had all the money documented, exactly where it came from, it was all legitimate, completely legit, it didn't matter because this was, you know, civil asset forfeiture laws, and they could pretty much do whatever they want. So as far as I know, she never got it back, which is really, really makes you sad. This isn't an actual person, but I know a lot of people out there who just are working in jobs that they hate. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm sorry. Get Ethel some Bitcoins. In case that wasn't obvious, if she were going to the airport with a brain wallet, she would never have had this problem. Anyway, I know a lot of people who really hate their jobs. I mean, they hate their jobs. They're working in jobs, and they feel kind of trapped. Perhaps it's keeping them in a location where they don't want to live. Perhaps it's got long hours, low pay. Perhaps they hate their boss, or they hate their coworkers. Or they don't feel like they have anything in common with the people they work with. Their work is meaningless. It's unfulfilling. Everybody knows someone like that, or has been in a job where they felt like that before, right? And you don't have to stay in a job that you hate, obviously, but some people feel like it's kind of their only option because they have to eat and they have to live. So what do? Well, perhaps Bitcoin could be a way to open up some avenues for entrepreneurship for people that could, change their job into something that they actually like. How about the person who doesn't even who wishes they had a job that they hated? There's all these people around the world who are living in just total destitute poverty. And a lot of people around the world have no access to, the financial services that we all take for granted and hate because they lock down our accounts. And if we have Bitcoin in our account, they're like, these people don't even have bank accounts. They don't have credit cards. They don't have loans. What's that, right? No financial services. So I think they can be helped by Bitcoin too. And here's how. So here are some potential solutions that I see to some of these problems where people don't have perhaps the personal freedom in their location, in their time, and in their relationships that they might want. There's a lot of talk in the Bitcoin world, and I think a huge opportunity for microlending and microfinance. And what I'm talking about here is people who don't have access to these banking services through organizations like Grameen Bank, which was one of the first microlending organizations. Muhammad Yunus, the founder, won a Nobel Prize. And Kiva is one that a lot of people are familiar with, and Zadisha is a peer-to-peer microlending platform. People in the developed world can kind of lend fiat to people in the developing world, and that's great. It helps a lot of people. But, all the problems with sending fiat from the U.S. to India or whatever still exist with those organizations. So how much better could they be if we could somehow integrate Bitcoin with them? And, one of the problems is a lot of people around the world don't have reliable internet or internet at all or computers, but most of them do have mobile phones. They're not smartphones, but they're mobile phones that can do SMS messaging. So if there's a way that we can get Bitcoin to work on so-called dumb phones with just SMS messaging, that might be really helpful for people around the world who that's all they have. And, this is getting better. There are companies that are coming out with solutions for people to be able to use Bitcoins through SMS, phones that are only really capable of SMS. So there's 37 coins, there's Coinapult, and then there's BTC to SMS. So I think these are going to be really helpful as the opportunities grow around the world for Bitcoin to integrate with microlending and those smaller transactions for the other 6 billion, as Andreas Antonopoulos likes to say. All right, and I talked a little bit about microfinance here, but just to reiterate, how much better could it be? It helps a lot of people, but how much better could it be if we could integrate Bitcoin with it somehow? The fees alone are just a huge reason to use Bitcoin for international transferring of money. With Bitcoin, you don't have to ask anyone's permission. Nobody can deny you permission for political reasons. And nobody can say, oh yeah, well, you can send money here, but we're going to take a 20% cut from the people who can't pay a 20% cut. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. Bitcoin also offers an opportunity for, transparency. The blockchain is a public ledger, and so you can easily voluntarily associate Bitcoin addresses with loans. And of course, we've got the potential for smart contracts coming out, and with things like open transactions and like Ethereum and all these other second-generation protocols. if we could have smart contracts that were perhaps insuring loans or collateralizing loans or whatever, I think we'd be in really good shape for microlending. This is an opportunity for Bitcoin. I called it an opportunity in this slide because this is not happening yet. But it will happen, and it should happen. And I encourage anyone who's interested in this to help make it happen. Brain wallets are another tool for Bitcoin personal freedom. Now, maybe this sounds basic to some people. I'm not really sure. But this talk is going to go on the internet, and some people may not know about this, so I'm going to tell you. A brain wallet, in case you've never heard of it, is usually a phrase of 10 words, something like that. They call it a brain wallet because usually people make these phrases easily memorable. So, it's something that you can store just in your brain or in your memory. And it's a phrase that can be used to derive a Bitcoin private key. Now, your private key, of course, is what enables you to access your Bitcoins. The Bitcoins are living on the internet, so they're always in the cloud. But if you have your private key, you can access your Bitcoins anywhere, from any location in the world as long as you have an internet connection. And of course, if you have the private key, that can be used to derive the public key or the Bitcoin address. So that's no problem. You only need to remember one thing. So basically what this means is if you can remember a phrase, complex enough not to be cracked, but memorable, easily memorable, you can store an unlimited access to an unlimited amount of Bitcoins in your brain. And what does that open up? The potential to walk across international borders with money that you would never be able to do with carrying cash, or even virtually. If you decided to expatriate, your bank accounts are probably going to get scrutinized, and they're going to take their cut, at least if you're leaving the U.S. or most places in the world. So, this is a great solution. It's just a fact. You can store and access to an unlimited amount of Bitcoins in your brain if you can remember a brain wallet. Brain wallets can be used for other things, too. I knew somebody who was making little cards where they would kind of write a brain wallet on the card, and then they would have a small amount of Bitcoin on there, and was giving it to all of his nieces and nephews for Christmas. So all kinds of applications for those. Local Bitcoins is another thing that I think is a tool for personal freedom. It's a person-to-person Bitcoin exchange, so you can buy and sell Bitcoins anywhere in the world. If you have access to local Bitcoins, you can meet someone and do Bitcoin transactions. And this is used for changing Bitcoin into fiat and vice versa. But there are other applications for local Bitcoins. You could potentially make friends if you are meeting people I know people who have made friends on local Bitcoins. You could potentially use local Bitcoins for exchange of services. I haven't seen much of this yet, but what's to stop someone from posting, I'm not selling Bitcoins for fiat, I'm selling Bitcoins for a massage or something like that. So I think it's cool, but be careful, of course. There's scammers, and there are cops, as we all know. They're targeting people in sting operations on local Bitcoins. So, be careful, but it's out there. It's there for you. Online business. I'm getting to the end of my time here, but so we'll have to wrap up. But this is the tool that can set someone free. There's this thing called virtual expatriation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's for people who, perhaps they're living in a oppressive jurisdiction that has a lot of laws that prevent them from doing the things that they want to do. And they could leave physically, or sometimes perhaps they can't leave physically. Like, what if they live in North Korea or something? Or sometimes they just can't leave physically because they don't want to. But, you can kind of do a lot of what you want to do on the internet without going anywhere. And Bitcoin really opens up areas for, e-commerce, for receiving tips. I don't know any other way to tip a blogger in Iran from America except with Bitcoin. And what does that do? That sets everyone free, because you get to express yourself, tip the person you want to tip, and they get to receive money. So everybody wins. The ideas for online business are just limitless, too. You can be a coach. If you have a skill, you can do coaching, you can make videos, you can sell ebooks, you can do affiliate marketing. You don't even have to sell your own product. You can sell other people's products and make money. people in the developing world can be virtual travel guides. I've heard of this for Bitcoin. And this is a great way to empower people, not just people in the developed world either. And I'm running out of time, but I'll just do a few more slides. There's this plugin called Free Speech Me that I wanted to talk about. This lets you view .bit domains. And if you haven't heard of this, perhaps you've heard of Namecoin. Namecoin is a Bitcoin spinoff. And this is a decentralized DNS registry. So instead of relying on ICANN to register your domain names, you do it on a blockchain. And it was hard to view these websites that ended with .bit before, but now you can view them easily with just a simple plugin. And this really resists censorship because nobody can seize a .bit domain name. So Pirate Bay, moving domains every day, don't need to worry about it. PirateBay.bit, Wikileaks.bit, and nobody would be able to mess with that. And I will skip the rest of the slides because I'm almost at the end of my talk, and I want to leave time for questions. But thank you very much. I think I got to talk about a lot of what I wanted to say. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Comment.
Bravo. Thank you, Stephanie Murphy.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Free Speech Me is awesome, and .bit domains are awesome, but there's a new plugin called Meowbit. It's actually not a plugin. It's on your system, so you can use any browser. Free Speech Me was just for Firefox. Meowbit is for anything on Windows. So, meowbit.com.
Any other questions? We have time, or she can go on for a minute.
Stephanie, you're the Let's Talk Bitcoin. Is that a podcast?
Yeah, Let's Talk Bitcoin is a twice-weekly podcast about cryptocurrency, and you can find it at letstalkbitcoin.com. That's I'm a host of Let's Talk Bitcoin along with Andreas Antonopoulos, who's sitting there, and Adam B. Levine is the main host and producer of the show. letstalkbitcoin.com. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Well, she will be free to talk with you over towards the red couch or up here. And please feel free to enjoy all the beverages out there. And yes, we do have the tickets right here if you would like to. Do you want to announce it?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Like Stephanie said in the beginning, she and I both work with Free Aid, and we're doing a raffle during the Bit concert. It's 1 millibit per ticket or $1, so good discount if you pay with Bitcoin. And we're raffling off, like Stephanie said, some silver rounds, Bitcoin hula hoop that you can use at the concert, and T-shirts, hoodies. You know, this is the only way you can get the Bitcoin Not Bombs hat that has that nice design.
Oh, the one-of-a-kind Bitcoin Not Bombs hat.
Yes.
That is a collector's item for sure.
Right. So I'll be here selling tickets toward the back of the room if you want to buy some for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Everybody give her a round of applause. She's been working it for the past 2 years.